Yes, I'm Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille Show. We very much enjoy connecting with you through this network, which has become more than a labor of love. It's one of the bright spots of our day. We love to talk topic matter that's local to Charlottesville and Albemarle County in Central Virginia, and we try to do it in a way that's ubiquitous and approachable by putting that content on your phones or where you are social media-wise. We encourage you, the viewer and listener, to ask us questions and shape the show and participate with the discussion. All we want to do is be the water cooler of conversation for a market we love dearly, Central Virginia, that is roughly 300,000 people strong. I want to start the program by giving some accolades to Judah Wickhauer, who is going to be behind the camera today as a director and producer. He keeps us online. And as you guys know, we're in downtown Charlottesville, where there's never a dull day in downtown Charlottesville. Judah Wickhauer, if we can go to the studio camera and welcome the stars of today's program, Mr. Roger Voisinet and Mr. Richard Price. I will start with the local luminary, Roger Voisinet, who's sharply dressed, looking sharp himself, a man who can pontificate on a number of topics, a friend. Roger, it's a pleasure to sit across this table from you.
Thank you, Jerry. It's always an honor to be here and share what I know with your followers, and people love this show.
Thank you.
I mean, I recognize half the names; they're always on it.
Thank you.
Ray Cadell and Woody and others, and Richard and I have been friends, and we've been doing projects since the '90s.
25 years, something, a long time.
Yeah. And I like to say we both went to Harvard. Richard for 3 years, and I went for 3 days.
Richard Price, an individual that is also a household name. You will see him often on a bicycle around downtown Charlottesville. You will see him walking up and down the streets of the city of Charlottesville from time to time. A tall guy.
And on the squash courts.
On the squash courts, of course.
Yeah.
Why don't we start with you, Richard? Introduce yourself to those watching the program.
Sure, Jerry, thanks. Richard Price, architect. I've been here in town for close to 30 years now, when I stop and think about it. And a small-scale developer. I've been doing small-scale projects here for, I guess the first thing we worked on was
River's Edge?
River's Edge, probably 25 years ago or so now, and have gone on to do several other small-scale development projects since, here and other places around in Central Virginia. Yeah.
And Roger Voisinet, for those that don't know you.
Well, let's see. I moved here from Montreal in 1978. A guy named Bob Monroe with the Monroe Institute was an investor in our company. And I lived on the downtown mall right next to Miller's, the very first condo. They were just putting the bricks down, and the trees were being planted, and that's where I started Virginia Solar.
Yep.
Also was involved starting Live Arts, Charlottesville Blues, semi-pro baseball team, extreme team, roller hockey, state champion roller hockey team. Oh, what else? And then got into real estate when solar was basically destroyed in 1986 by the government. First, they started this great industry, and we did wonderful things. And then they just let it go to seed. That's when I got into real estate. I really wanted to be self-employed. And then I bought my house in the Woolen Mills and started learning about real estate, and I bought my first single-family investment home, which is the topic of today's conversation, 1317 East Market Street. And, of course, I've done other things, coached UVIS hockey, started TEDx Charlottesville, which we've talked about on the show many times, and I think that does it.
Married your beautiful wife?
Yeah, I married Jessica.
Yeah?
After I was 65 when I got married. I waited a long time, but it was worth it.
You are aging like a fine wine, my friend.
Thank you.
I'm going to get out of the way of this fantastic panel of experts. Richard, why don't we start with you here, Roger?
Okay.
Let's talk Woolen Mills. Because I think when Woolen Mills, the neighborhood Woolen Mills comes to mind, people think the church, people think you, people may think the wool factory. Yeah. It's a fantastic location.
So the Woolen Mills was pretty rough in 1982. I bought my home from Chris Murray, who's still around, Panorama Farms. At that time, it was Mike Van Yeries and Peggy Van Yeries. That's it, basically. And My house was pretty crude, but I loved it. I had already discovered this home by accident on a bicycle trip. When I lived on the mall, I used to explore the city, and something made me stop at this home. I didn't know who lived there, and that was 1980, and then 2 years later, Chris Murray said, "I'm moving to Philadelphia, would you like to buy my home?" And I was ungainfully overemployed at the time, which meant I had too much work to do for too little money, and interest rates were 16%. And at Virginia Solar, we paid 24.5% interest for our corporate loan. So that was my context. But my father helped me buy the house. It was only $56,000. Actually, it was $60,000, but I did a lease purchase. I moved in for 6 months before closing. And it was the first adjustable rate loan. Bonnie Herndon got me this adjustable rate loan with VNB. So I learned about real estate, and then in 1997, this home I drove past in 1317 East Market for 20 years. I always thought it was like one of the ugliest houses around. And I didn't even want to go anywhere near it, but the woman who owned it then sort of freshened it up a bit and went for sale. So I bought it, and I think the first time I got a loan to get it, FHA loan, I think. Had to pay private mortgage insurance. And then 2 days after I closed, Oliver Kutner said, "I wanted that house, damn you." And he said he wanted to put a parking lot in the backyard. So he would have cut down all the trees 27 years ago. But I never thought about anything other than just starting my investment portfolio. But as time went on, I kept thinking, in the backyard, it's on this quiet dead-end street. The backyard's unused. It's grass. It's flat. Wouldn't it be great to build another house? So this is what's changed. You needed 6,000 square feet to build a house in the city. Although there's hundreds of homes, particularly in Belmont, that are on 5,000 square foot lots. For some reason, or smaller. Or townhomes and condos have.
Yep.
Anyways, I could never build a second house. So I kept thinking, I'm going to wait and wait and wait, and then something will change at some point, and of course it just did. And then, Richard knew I was thinking about this, so Richard's been thinking about how we can, put 2 or 3 homes in the back. So we're going to show some pictures that I have and Richard has. By saving the current home, we're not tearing it down, we can build 3 houses in the rear. So maybe we can start showing those pictures.
Absolutely. So Judith's going to call them on screen in order with before, bird's eye view, arrows, and current. Gentlemen, the show is yours. I'm just along for the ride.
Okay.
So is it up yet, Judah?
Before is on screen.
Before is on screen. Okay. This is what the house looked like for 27 years. The first thing I did when I bought it was put up vinyl siding because the siding was pretty bad. And then the tenant, over the last 14 years, put up put up the little pathway for the wheelchair. His wife was sick. And the tenant, he's been there for 14 years. And so when he bought a home in Waynesboro, it was coinciding with what we're doing. So the second image shows where we're talking about. Mm-hmm. So if people haven't seen it yet, if you know where Firefly is, 1 block to the east of Mead, the Mead light at Firefly is 16th Street. 16th Street, if it extended, would go right to Mead Park Pool, but it's dead ends. There's only 3 houses on the street. And there's 2 that face East Market and 3 on 16th. So here's this great, quiet street with 200 feet of road frontage behind the existing home. So the first thing I did when I hired Ben Myrtle's crew at Rex to take off the siding and paint the asbestos, because it looks like... Judah, can we show the after?
Yeah, we can. Benjamin Myrtle deserves some props. He's somewhat of a local luminary as well. Heck of a foosball player.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills fan.
Absolutely.
A guy who enjoys a cold beverage like yours truly as well, and someone who's very talented at what he does. I had to just offer a little color.
No, I told him I'd mention him on air because Drew and his crew, they're just super. I love those guys. So they did all the exterior work. Then I hired Alpha Dog Junk Removal because the tenant left behind $2,000 to $4,000 of junk.
Wow.
It cost me that much to remove it all. And then Ben recommended a monster cleaning service. They're the ones who go in to a home if it's a crime scene or they do the worst of worst. So this wasn't that bad, but I hired. So it's cleaned up now. And I decided not to fix it up and we'll talk about why when we start talking into the development details. So what's on screen now?
He showed you had bird's eye viewed, and you put current on screen as well. We can put anything you want, and what you will see will be a 10-second delay.
Yeah, I noticed.
But the viewers and listeners will be seeing exactly what you're talking about. So you let them know what photo you want on screen.
And then the fourth image was the aerial view of the backyard, Judah.
Okay, that's arrows?
Yeah, the arrows.
Okay, he'll put that on screen. That's on screen now.
So you can see that's actually the tax map with Google Earth overlay. Shows the 3 arrows pointing to our 3 future home sites. So now we can talk about what we have in mind under the new zoning. That's where Richard's focus has been. Richard's been working with the city of Charlottesville, various departments, right, for years, helping them craft this new zoning regulation.
Well, I don't know how active I was, other than, like a lot of people providing comments as they were working through this. That's now, I guess we've been calling it the draft zoning ordinance, but it's actually in force now. We should probably call it the
new zoning ordinance. You're right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not the DZO anymore. We're going to call it the NZO now.
NZO, new zoning ordinance.
New zoning ordinance.
There we go.
Okay. Upzoning.
Upzoned. Upzoned. Obviously a lot of the intent there was to increase the supply of housing in the city by allowing people to densify on their properties.
And the thinking is, and I'll put it in an approachable way, then throw it to you, if density increases, there's more options, which should create price stability for potential tenants and buyers of real estate in a limited or landlocked 10.2 square mile city.
Great.
In a nutshell.
Well put. Yes. Okay. No, well put. Yeah, I think obviously with the landlocked city, there's limited opportunities. A lot of people who want to live in the city, and the demand way outpacing the supply. So it's obviously had major effect on the cost of real estate in town. So I think the very least that this new ordinance will do will hopefully help stabilize prices, and we won't see so much increase. So kind of step one in a larger agenda to increase supply and hopefully provide some more housing at the bottom end of the market as well. So all that to say, when Roger and I first started talking about this project, it seemed like a great opportunity to put in place what the new zoning ordinance was hoping to accomplish. It's a relatively flat piece of property, which is easy. The context looked like it was right on target for a little infill development. So based on that, we developed a scheme that is currently working its way through the entitlement process. And if you want to put up the my first image there, Judah.
Is that 1317 bird's eye?
Bird's eye. Yeah.
Okay.
Do the bird's eye.
Judah can do that. You got a lot of comments already coming in for you guys.
Good.
Okay. So the idea is with an existing house, we're adding 3 additional single-family houses on the same lot, small-scale lots, but we'll have, on a nice, quiet side street, should make a nice little pocket neighborhood, I guess we'd call it.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of the entitlement process right now with that. I should probably say that the NDS is well aware that the zoning ordinance, the new zoning ordinance, was kind of the first step in this process. And as we were working through this process, we discovered several other little glitches that need attention to in the city's code. And so primary among those is the stormwater regs, which are right now are very difficult to manage for projects of the size of this project that we're working on with Roger. So the city is actually working on revisions to the stormwater regulations right now. It's a state reg, so there's some back and forth with the state to do there. There are some fire protection and utility questions that we're working through them on that. Hopefully, of course, of the next several months, we'll see a lot of these roadblocks start to or these obstacles, I guess, start to ease up and make things a little more straightforward.
Comments are coming in. We have one prominent local developer that is hoping we talk about the affordable housing criteria for some of these projects and how it's potentially making projects difficult to materialize. Maybe that's a topic for the show. If memory serves correct, it is tied to a threshold of 10 units or more. The affordability requirements for projects. You guys are the experts on that. I'm just a pace setter. We do have one of our favorite viewers and listeners, Deep Throat, watching the program from his Montana estate. He lives locally in the city as well. Number one in the family here. We can get his photo on screen. He says this from Montana. This project seems like the good case for the NZO. Wow, he's already adjusting to the new acronym. Yeah. He says, this project seems like the good case for the NZO, a reasonable number of units on a lot that had a lot of frontage on the side street, so probably not the sort of lot that would be targeted by minimum lot size rules. One question for the panel, is this going to be an actual subdivision or is it using the sublot concept? If the latter, I'd love to hear how that works in terms of fee simple ownership. Is the land shared in some way between the homeowners or their interior sublot lines that divide the line? And he also says, this obviously is a sophisticated viewer and listener here, he says, and obviously these look like non-luxury homes that could actually hit in the middle of existing price distribution, which is good for the market. So where you guys want to go with that?
A lot of questions here. Anything in particular you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll start. We've hired Roger Ray and Associates, Brian Ray, and they did the survey, and we're going to have 4 sublots. The existing home will be on a 3,200 square foot lot, and each of the 3 on roughly a 2,100 square foot lot, and we can sell them fee simple. In fact, I'll be selling lots to Richard's getting 1, and then Mike Saddle, our Charlottesville area builders, will get 2. And I think it's a good time to explain the homes now. We've come up with a 1,300 square foot, 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice house. Mike does a terrific job. We're hoping to put a basement in each one, and the basement could either be unfinished or possibly a basement apartment, which we're hoping could contribute to the affordability. So I think we're going to aim for $600,000. Wish it could be lower, but that's
$600,000
for the home.
Okay.
I mean, let's be realistic. It's probably going to end up there because we got to put in sidewalks and a lot of things the city wants. We're going to get into that. But I left the front home unfinished. I didn't want to finish it myself because I'm not a contractor. And I thought it would be better to let someone maybe get in at a lower price point and do the sweat equity because there's 4 ways you could improve that house. Richard's got some ideas for improving. I took Larry Goldstein in this morning, and his son's a contractor. And we could redo the first floor. It's just 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. You could leave the upstairs unfinished or put carpeting. Then you could either connect to the basement apartment or leave it as an unfinished basement or make it into a studio. I don't know. Richard knows this. I don't know if it could be a duplex officially. I think he said it couldn't be.
Yeah, good point.
It's going to cost some money, though, to make that a duplex,
Yeah. Well, it already is a duplex. It's got 2 meters. It's been a duplex the whole time.
I'm talking in remodeling.
Yeah, it's going to cost some money for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of people tackle that.
Yeah.
So right now under the existing zoning ordinance, the new zoning ordinance, you can, by keeping the existing house, you can have a total of 4 units on the property. And I think I've got my numbers right. And that's what we've applied for with the city. It's also possible if we have affordable housing that meets the city's criteria for affordable housing, which includes documentation and things to demonstrate that, that I believe it's 2 additional units can be on there. So which would mean, the basement apartments in the existing house and one of the other houses as well.
I was thinking it'd be great property for the land trust, and I was hoping Keith would come see it, or Roxanne. They know about it, so I'm hoping still that they'll come over. I could even do owner financing, and I'd love to have the land trust get involved.
Roger Voisinet is going to close a deal right here on the talk show.
Right.
Yeah, come on,
That's the idea. Yeah, okay.
Keep going, gentlemen.
Well, and I can talk about the sublot thing, because I've been through that, not just with this project, but with several clients now with property around town. It is the easy place to start with that is it's confusing, and maybe unnecessarily so. I think there was one of the discussion items during the whole process was, why are we doing this sublot thing? Why don't we just do, get rid of the minimum lot size requirements and just make everything lots? Whatever, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So now we have this distinction between sublots and lots. And from a sales perspective, there's really no difference between the two. It's a fee simple piece of property. You buy the house and the ground that it sits on like you would buy any single-family house. So there's no difference really between a lot and a sublot. It really comes down to how it's approved and what regulations apply. So the zoning regs apply to lots with the setbacks, the minimum lot size, that kind of thing. And then in residential zones, you're allowed to have sublots, which means you can actually divide off a piece of that lot and sell it fee simple.
Yeah, which made the whole process and project feasible.
Yeah, and so the bottom line is and I can just give an example. I had a friend and a client who was asking me about one of his properties, been working with him a bit about how to subdivide his property. And he asked the question to the city, how is there a minimum lot size? And he got the technically correct answer back from the city was the minimum lot size in that zone is 2,500 square feet. But what he didn't understand and wasn't clear was that there is no minimum sublot size on these lots. So I had to get that clarified with him. So all this to say that the nomenclature is confusing for people, especially the first time through this. But the intent is, and I should, just to back up, I can give some background on that, because the idea of a sublot started, I think, with an infill ordinance in Portland, Oregon, probably 10 years ago now, but basically trying to take large single-family lots and subdivide them into smaller lots. And they've done a bunch of those now in Portland, because similar housing crisis, trying to keep housing in the existing scale but subdivide it. And that's where it came from. And I think it should probably shout out to James Freese, now the
former head of neighborhood development services, now
city
a lieutenant,
assistant city manager,
under Sam Sanders.
I did, in the very beginning of this new zoning process, met with him at my development project. Roger worked and I worked together on the 1130 condo project.
That's his High Street development. I think that's sold out, right?
Sold out a long time ago.
That turned out fantastically well.
Yeah.
Right, thank
I
you.
did ask you in previous shows, would you do that project again? And
my answer was no.
Your answer was no. That's
and
right.
the reason, I'll tell you the reason, and this goes right to what I was talking about, was I did meet James out there early on when he was starting this process, and he asked me that same question, would you do this again? And I said no, because the issue for me was selling the units. The only way I had to sell units in that project was to create a condominium. There was no way to sell fee simple at the time, because lots at the time had to front on a public street. There was no way to do that.
Yeah.
And the costs of creating a condo were somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a unit, right? And not to mention a lot of headache.
Yeah.
Both on my side and on the sales side, it's harder to sell condos, I think, than fee simple. So I would do, now that the new zoning is in place and I can do something similar, fee simple, sure, I'll do that again. But I'm not going to do another small condo like that. It was too complicated, too much money. So the sublot was a response to that exact concern, that it's very difficult to subdivide these houses and sell them if sublots have to have street frontage. So
There's comments coming in. I'll address a couple here.
Okay.
I can answer this one for you guys, but I will not do that. There is some pushback from the viewers and listeners, and I'm seeing some potential first-time home buyers on the $600,000 price tag. From an affordability standpoint,
yep.
I'll set the stage on that, pass it to you. Said, has anyone...
Well, if we could build a 3-bedroom, 2-bed, we started with what's sellable, right?
Yeah.
3-bedroom, 2-baths, 1,300 square feet. We're slightly bigger than the condo at Belmont Lofts. That's 2 bedrooms for
Yeah.
$500,000 or $600,000. I mean, it has to do with price of things, cost of materials, labor. I mean,
Cost of goods,
it's
labor.
we just come up with that price backwards.
We're now in the process of moving from Keswick to Ivy, my family and I.
Yeah.
Sold our house in Keswick, bought one in Ivy. Sanding the floors on a house and painting a house, just those 2 projects alone, we're talking between $40,000 and $50,000. Yeah. These guys are building homes. So I want to offer a little grace, I guess, if you may, for what you're doing. There was some sticker shock with the viewers and listeners, which could be as expected from folks.
With me too. That's why I left the front house vacant. Let someone else get in at a lower price point. Maybe even do owner financing.
Yeah, I mean, the price didn't come from how much can we get for a house. It started with, if we build, a modest-sized 3-bedroom house on this lot in this location, what are the costs? Here's the costs, and with it putting in a modest profit return on our investment, that's where you come out these days. It is shocking how much that is. I mean, I couldn't afford to live in Charlottesville anymore.
And we don't know what the city's going to require me as the lot creator to do. Like, are we going to have to put in a $21,000 sidewalk or not? Probably will.
That's coming up.
$7,000 adding to the house price, and no one will ever use that sidewalk.
That's coming on the feed right now. Can Roger or Richard put in perspective the cost of the red tape associated with the project?
That is a great question.
We'll know in 3 months more.
Yeah.
And we should first put in perspective for those that are watching that may not be in the game what red tape is, and then we highlight what the cost could be.
Well, I'm not sure I'd call it red tape as much as just the cost of entitlement. It's and it's not just this project, not just Charlottesville. This is the concern around the country with what are the costs of getting approvals to build. And some of that is requirements that developers make public improvements, like sidewalks, fixing streets, adding fire hydrants, turnarounds for fire trucks, all kinds of things that city regs here and other places require that small development projects take on as part of their expenses.
Utility hookup fees.
I mean,
utility, and then there are.
You should highlight that.
Yeah,
I don't even know what they are yet.
I heard through the grapevine it was $19,000.
Yeah.
Just for the utility hookup.
13.5 right now per house, I think. Is
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have gas.
Okay.
Just electric.
So the first is just the cost of building things. The second is there's all kinds of fees associated with that. One is the utility hookup fees. Yeah. Sometimes there are, affordable housing costs you have to kick in, not necessarily here in Charlottesville, at other places. Other exactions. There's, per unit fees, exactions they're called, that the developer has to pay to the city.
To replant it, we're going to have to plant
The trees,
quite a few trees.
A lot of projects
Happy to
have
do
to
that.
make, add turn lanes and things like that.
Yeah.
So these are all costs.
So this, what should be taken here, any developer that's doing projects in this community should take a snapshot of the last 4 minutes of the program so they can utilize that to highlight how difficult it is to bring projects online and how when a number to list or sell a home, everyone is quick to push back on the developer. And I would say not so fast, my friends. Look at what's baked in doing a project like this that's not even tied to, the bottom line. I mean, not even tied to profit, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
A lot of questions coming in for you guys.
Yeah. I think there's other costs as well. For example, when you're doing public improvements, you have to post a bond, and that comes with a cost. So there's also, and I just Roger mentioned we just submitted a 13-page set for entitlements, which, because I'm an architect, it wasn't a huge deal for me, but that's an out-of-pocket expense to most developers. And I was just looking at that set, and it's interesting that I would say of those 13 drawings, 2 or 3 are things that we needed to work out in order to build the project. And the other drawings were all about demonstrating to the city, demonstrating compliance to the city. So, and there's, an engineering cost behind doing that as well, or a soft cost, whether it's architect's fees or engineer's fees. Somebody has to do those drawings and demonstrate to the city. So there's a lot of, before you even begin to think about breaking ground, there's a lot of expenses that are adding up completely apart from construction costs.
This is, which I mean, let's put in perspective, that's called risk here. So this question right here is a fantastic one from Janice Boyce Trevelyan. If Roger and Richard were doing this project, this exact project, in Waynesboro or Louisa County, what would the cost difference be?
Well, I don't know yet, but before we get into that, I like to say that the average homeowner couldn't put together this all-star team as fast as I was able, because
you're on the game.
Doing it. Yeah, but I know Daniel Hires, our engineer, Brian Ray, Mike Sadler's our builder. I mean, he bought one of our condos. Richard and I have been doing projects with him. Richard and I, just that alone is very daunting. The average homeowner would have to find and hire Richard just to study this opportunity, and then pay him what his time is. I don't know how much dollars we have in your invoice, which we're working off on his lot cost, but it's quite a bit. Yeah. And that's just to get going. We haven't even been past our first week of our site plan submission. And then there's people who are advertising homes to sell, like the one on Chesapeake, to develop they're going to try to get $500,000 from a builder to go in and do this one. I can start from practically.
I mean, we highlighted
people like me have to do this, not people selling at a high price to attract people like Richard and Mike.
We highlighted on this show, it was a listing by Luke Cole of, I believe, Long and Foster in the Lewis Mountain neighborhood, a brick rancher that traded for $1 million. And it was marketed, as you know, with the opportunity that the new zoning ordinance provided. You're talking a brick rancher that hadn't been updated in decades, that some would maybe say could be on the cusp of teardown, that traded for $1 million.
It remains to be seen whether that will work out for the buyer.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty risky.
Yeah, and one of the things I hope we can do as part of this project is really get a better handle on, what kind of costs other property owners would be faced in doing this kind of small-scale development.
Well, I think you guys could be, we call it in the branding advertising world, a POP, a proof of performance, because you guys are potentially first in this new zoning ordinance ecosystem. You guys might be the POP, the proof of performance. The barometer, if you may. A lot of people say in the business world, first to market are the folks that get slaughtered. I'm not going to say that with you guys because you guys are the expert, but you might be first to market here.
Yeah, and James actually saw that. I think James Fries.
You might be history.
He once told me this is his favorite little project because he can see obviously it makes sense.
Yeah. And the expertise involved.
Yeah. Well, and we're definitely working with the city, helping work out the bugs in this. But I think and I should probably also point out that because Roger is going for 4 units, we're going for 4 units on this property. There's a higher hurdle for approvals here. So if you're just adding one single unit on,
if you're just adding an ADU or a cottage in the backyard, you're saying there's less friction.
It's a far lower bar to do that. So I think there probably would be a bigger market for that kind of work than to do something larger like.
Would this project have made sense for you, your business person? Would it have made sense for you if it was any less than 4 units?
I probably could make it work for 3 if we tore down the existing home and made the sublots larger, but we'd end up selling the homes for
higher
even
price.
More money. And I'm trying not to do that. We're
Right.
trying to. I think our homes will be like an alternative to someone buying a townhome or a condo at Belmont Lofts, because they're going to have a backyard and a front yard and quiet, safe area.
Walkable to downtown, like Belmont Lofts.
Yeah.
I love this idea. How about this? Given how tight these houses are sited relative to each other, do you anticipate some sort of HOA or covenants to make sure everyone plays nice in close quarters?
No, I don't think so.
There's probably generally you set up an HOA when there's some kind of
common ground,
property in common,
Yeah.
or houses are going to be developed over a period of years that you want to control the design. In this case, I mean, we're going to design and build all the houses.
Is there any common elements to this?
No.
Okay.
No common elements.
No common elements.
And partly it's an in-town property. It's on a quiet side street, and it's literally half a block away from Mead Park. So this is very much about in-town living, not about living in the country with a big backyard.
Which I think is going to appeal to a lot of people.
I think, and there's other projects in town here that have very small fee simple lots, and they've worked just fine for.
We'll
for the right market.
We'll highlight John Blair watching the show. We love John when he watches the program. You got a number of local media watching you guys on the program. These guys love doing interviews, in particular Roger, Voisinet, which you're very good at.
Oh, thank you.
Good at, Roger. So this is an interesting question. When does the panel anticipate the first for sale sign in the ground or an active listing? To be determined?
I would like to see it in 3 to 4 months, but that really depends on the city's feedback.
To break the ground?
Yeah.
On the existing house, I mean,
No, I mean the new houses.
Well, I mean, we won't have those built until.
I made to break ground.
Break ground. Yeah.
They're asking for when can someone potentially buy it? When do we have an active listing?
We probably, if we break ground in 4 months, we wouldn't advertise it for sale or lease for 5-6 months down the road. So next year.
So we're talking about potentially this time next year?
Probably.
Man, you talk about what you guys are doing is impressive. The carrying costs, the risk profile here. I mean, these guys are taking risk here.
Well,
and he's hedging his risk by offering subsidized lot prices to the people involved in the project, which is basically diminishing your carrying costs a little bit.
Yeah, so
that's big. That's not everyone can do that.
Do you know there's a lot that sold today at River's Edge, our first project, that I won't tell you who bought it. $230,000 for a 6,000 square foot lot, most of which is completely treed and in the floodplain, right across from Riverside Park.
For a post stamp.
Yeah.
That's not flat.
So not at all.
Yeah, and that's a great caveat here. That I mean, we're able to make this project work because of. Roger owns the existing house free and clear.
He has huge advantages here.
I am taking my fees and my profit on this on the back end when the houses sell, which
not everybody would do that. Few would do that.
It's only because Roger and I worked together for so long on these kinds of projects that I'm willing to do that. Someone comes to me and says, I want to buy a house, $1 million, whatever it is, pay my fees up front, and they want this whole project to work as a development project. My initial response is going to be good luck, because the carrying costs are going to be significant.
Right.
Yeah.
The carrying costs are significant, and the uncertainty is tangible. It's palpable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
have to make sure we build something people will want to buy or live in, right?
Yeah,
we had to start there and
Yeah.
work backwards.
Yeah.
And I think that
I respect what you're doing
I think most of the infill development under this code we're going to see is people either doing
the granny flat or the cottage in the backyard.
Well, that would be great, but those are expensive too. I'd say I think probably more so people dividing internal divisions of existing houses.
So you're talking like a basement apartment.
Basement apartment or an internal granny flat. Yeah, they used to call them internal accessory units under the old code. Yeah,
So it's important to highlight what he just said. I'm going to put this in very straightforward language.
Yep.
What he thinks is going to be the primary byproduct of the new zoning ordinance is basement apartments or living options tied to a primary residence.
not necessarily basement apartments, but I would probably argue. And this is all coming back to economics.
Yeah.
Okay. This has nothing to do with the intent of the code or my predilection or my interest, anything. If you look at the economics,
Cost of goods, labor.
and the complications of doing a project like this, even building a single ADU in the backyard, a granny flat in the backyard,
It was $250,000.
is at least,
Yeah.
It's going to be expensive, it's complicated. The average homeowner just doesn't have the money, the time, the skills to make these kinds of
Or
things
finding
happen.
the financing.
And the financing, yeah.
Yeah.
So the easier, simple project is retired couple, single person living in a house that's too big and they need some income, and that's a much more plausible, much more attainable kind of renovation
Because that's a remodeling project.
It's a remodeling project,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I think we'll see, those are in the realm right now, I would say probably of financially feasible.
I mean, because the return on investment, business guy to business guy to business guy here, the return
Yep.
on investment on building a $300,000 ADU on your backyard, it's not going to be the 7 points that a bank is offering on a primary residence. It's going to be much higher than that. Your ROI on that is going to be never.
Yeah.
It could be your kids getting the ROI.
Yeah, at 7% interest.
It's not going to be
and,
7% on that.
yeah.
Because that would be an investment property, rental
Right.
property.
Right.
So that's probably a point and a half higher than the 7.
Probably 8.5%,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, bottom line is, you're right. The return on that is never.
It's never.
Is never. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not going to work.
So people aren't going to do that.
That's correct. And I've been through this with enough people now, looked at the numbers, looked at the property. You know, interest rates come way down, construction costs stabilize a bit, rents stabilize. Yeah, we might see that. Well, the other thing that's interesting that's happening in a couple of markets, not in Charlottesville because it's not big enough,
Yeah.
is companies have a couple, I can think of Los Angeles in particular, a couple of startups have gotten into the business of turnkey ADUs in the backyard. So they have standard designs, they have products ready to go, they've got the financing all set up.
So is it a prefab house? Is it like the Sears Roebuck houses?
It may be.
Get a crane and jump
Is that what
in
it
the
is?
backyard.
Well, prefab, it's probably panelized. It's probably componentized as opposed to prefab. But they've got standard designs. They've got the financing worked out. So they've got the entitlements all worked out. So you can basically sign a contract. This is how you take the risk off the homeowner. You sign a contract with a company like that that says, guaranteed these are your costs when you're done. You don't have to do anything. You're providing the land and a place to put it. And here's what your costs are, and here's what your rental market is. So before you do anything on this, you're sure this is actually going to be a viable investment, which right now in Charlottesville, doing these custom one at a time with the topography we have here, I think it's going to be a stretch to make these things
100%.
profitable. So,
Yeah, plus the politics of it, and I'll leave it at that.
ideally, we could. The process will get easier as it goes. Streamline the process a bit. But even with that, just with construction cost, with interest, with the complications, it's just it's going to be tough.
Local developer, this one here, and I'm going to respect his anonymity
Okay.
for the sake of the show. Can you highlight the affordable housing requirements of the as you guys now are calling it, the new zoning ordinance, 10% of units, when it's a project of greater than 9 units, 10% of them have to be affordable to 60% of the area median income. And if they're rentals for 99 years,
I mean,
who's going to go down a project with that?
Yeah, the short answer to that is it's a disincentive to build affordable housing.
There it is.
You know,
have you passed that along to?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is that
it's a disincentive to build housing that's greater than 9 units.
9 units, yeah. Which
when 10% of your units have to be 60% AMI for 99 years.
And I mean, we can spend a whole show
That's
talking
a show
about
by itself.
Affordability, I mean, my experience, where I'm coming from with this is every project I have developed over the last 25 years has some strategy for affordability in it. River's Edge, we talked about. We sold 2 of the lots to Habitat. River Bluff has, and High Street, 1130 condos both have internal accessory dwelling units that have kind of fallen into that box of affordability. So I get it. I want to do this, but I also have to. As a developer, you have to come out in the black. Otherwise,
you're not a developer.
You're not going to do this anymore, right? So, I guess after doing this all these years, my basic take on this is that affordable housing needs some form of subsidy, whether that's an internal subsidy where one unit is basically subsidizing another, or there's a direct subsidy from like housing vouchers, for example, or you are a not-for-profit like Habitat or PHA who can take advantage of that. So it's very difficult to, and I say that because for example, the accessory dwelling units at River Bluff and at High Street are effectively space that was built relatively cheaply as part of a larger unit, right? And so they're taking advantage of.
Tell him what. So he's referring to. We have 2 office condominiums. Mike Sadler owns one. Mm-hmm. There's a separate entrance to go upstairs to a 1-bedroom apartment that Mike rents for $1,500 a month, or he could use it for a showroom. He doesn't need to rent it. But that's what we're calling an ADU. It's not a detached ADU.
Not a detached.
But it was built right in, so basically it's just the second floor of a condo.
I think that's efficient and intelligent.
Yeah, it was great. Everybody.
Yeah, and with I would say at River Bluff, I designed about half the houses there. I think most of those houses I designed either have an internal accessory dwelling unit or designed to easily be changed into one. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of an internal subsidy that you can build in as you're doing this.
Got a lot of stuff coming in for you here.
Yeah,
We're at the 123 marker. Time flies when you're having some fun. 53 minutes in.
Okay.
This is a good one there's a reason he's ranked. We do rankings of our viewers and listeners. This is the reason he's number 1. It's Deep Throat. He has this comment. If a mere 10% of affordable housing requirement at a AMI level that is highly distorted, i.e. it's very high for reasons we have discussed, that tells you that zoning limits on unit count was never a big constraint. Big cities were asking for 25 to 30%, and they're getting projects done.
Big cities.
Yeah. He's often offering a little pushback, if you may, that the zoning, the DZO, now NZO, was a solution. And he's pushing on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was ever intended as a solution to the affordable housing. I think it was just one step.
Well, Keith likes to call it a silver buckshot, so it's one of the pellets.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. So
one of the arrows in the quiver, if you may.
Yeah, I mean it's a first step. Part of the first step here really is finding a way of densifying the city without destroying the character of the city, which I think that I would argue that's probably more the intention of the new zoning ordinance.
Nora Gaffney says, "Best of luck, my friends."
Can I say one thing that I've observed?
Yes.
This is for viewers who have, if you have a corner lot, if you have a house on a corner with road frontage on the side, this may work for you. It's those internal lots that are going to have a harder time. But this wouldn't work if I owned the house next door, for instance. It's all because of the side street road frontage.
Well, I think what would
and
work...
there's quite a few people who have
Yeah, and
corner
actually,
lots.
on single lots, it can be complicated.
Yeah.
I think, and where we started with the High Street, the 1130 condo project, that was 3 lots. So if you have 2 lots next to each other, it's relatively easy to make a courtyard project. Right, but that requires 2 adjacent lots to do that.
I think these units are going to sell all day, every day, and twice on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think
so.
next year you're going to see rate cuts. You're going to have a deeper buyer pool, and we still have not seen the impact of data science school, the new biotech school. We haven't seen the impact of $11 billion invested into Louisa County. We have not seen the impact of the $225 million Northrop Grumman facility in Waynesboro with an average salary of $94,000 per person.
Yep.
We are going to have an influx of population that is deep-pocketed. We're still seeing the influx of people working remotely, Northern Virginia, bigger cities coming down here and working through their ISP while commanding $450 an hour. I think you're going to crush it with this. I think that you will have a waiting list for people to buy them.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Now, there's obviously such a huge pent-up demand here in the city, especially for a more modest-sized unit.
And another, I don't call it unfortunate. I just call it is what it is. That number, the 600,000 number, whatever it is the entry point in the city of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's the entry point in Charlottesville.
Yeah, and I should probably just kind of an interesting thought. One of the many things I do is I'm a faculty member at a national not-for-profit called Incremental Development Alliance, and we work with cities and towns around the country to help them develop a pool of small-scale developers. And one of the things that we like to say there is that small-scale development like this is not how we're doing this, how it's done nationally. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. We're not. None of us are doing this to get rich. At very best, what we're doing is building our long-term net worth equity. So, the real value for me, for Roger, of these projects, and Roger's had this now for 27 years, this piece of property, so he's finally about to hopefully get some value.
Some return.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you're holding on to property, and it's helping you build net worth. And I think, to me, that's a real legitimate goal here with this new zoning ordinance for existing property owners, that they have a chance to
capitalize on opportunity.
Capitalize on the existing real estate market here.
Makes perfect sense. You said it that well. Well, he's got a 130 upstairs with one of our tenants. We're at 127 here.
Okay.
I want to give Roger an opportunity to close the deal here. The show is yours. If they want to connect with you, anything you want to talk about, and we have to do this again, fellas. This is fun.
Good.
This is
Enjoyed
fun.
it. Yeah.
If people know me, they know I've been involved with a semi-secret UVA project since 1980 to convince the university to build an on-grounds or on-campus ice arena for the community. So 4 months ago, Dan Smythe and I, who's on my little committee, there's just 3 of us, received a $10 million donation towards our project. And before COVID, we had already raised between $2 and $5 million. So we've assembled a team. I'm not going to tell you where the university thinks this could go or who I've talked to at the university, because I'm waiting to get a feasibility study announced. That's what I was hoping to announce, and the university will be doing their own release at some point. But I can say, for 25 years, I've been trying to push the aircraft carrier with a sailboat, and now for the first time, the helm is looking at the sailboat, and I'm pointing in this direction, and they're looking that way.
So he kind of just teased some breaking news right there. That's what that was. That's
So-
the carrot dangling on the stick.
Yeah, and as Alan Taylor said, if you have $10 million, it's pretty much a done deal.
Alan Taylor, Riverbend Development.
Yeah, we had lunch, and everybody's coming out to help with this project. There's
Lieutenant
absolutely
Takora
nobody.
Capshaw, Alan Taylor.
Absolutely, yeah. We have so much support. I mean, one of the dads from the current hockey team said, put me down for $1 million. I'm going to either raise it or give it to you. We've got other people saying that since 2018.
Congratulations, Roger.
We have an architect. Well, we have Joe Celentano of EMDO. He's the go-to local architect for sports. But Randy Lieberg at JLG Architects in Minneapolis just designs college ice arenas.
Yeah.
Including, if anyone listening, go to Sacred Heart University, Fairfield, Connecticut, and find my favorite college ice arena.
I would love this. I would love this because he's meeting one of our at 1:30. That's
Okay.
1:30. So which is in 35 seconds. I would love to kindly and warmly invite you back to have an entire show on this topic.
Yeah.
If you're okay with that.
Well, at a certain time, I'm waiting to hear from a few things at the university, but Dan Smythe and I, and maybe the new coach for the UVA team, will all come on.
That would be amazing.
That'd be fun.
And guys, this was I love this stuff. I geek
Yeah,
out over
great.
this stuff. I'm grateful for your time.
Great, very interesting. Thanks very much, Jerry. Really enjoyed it.
It's our pleasure. I'm grateful for you. Thank you for
Thank
saying
you
this
for
out.
having us. We
Thank
had
you.
a good time.
Yeah,
These guys are great.
obviously.
Do it anytime.
Good to see you again.
Same to you, Richard and Roger, guys, both local luminaries. And Charlottesville and Almar in Central Virginia. Judah Wickower, I know you're against the gun. Thank you. It's the I Love CVille Show, which you can find anywhere on social media, wherever you get your podcasting content. I think this interview from start to finish was about as informative of an interview that we've ever done. So long, everybody, and take care.
Thanks.
It was excellent. He's going to tell us when the mics and cameras are off, which they will be shortly.